welcome to all the viewers on Zoom and those who are joining us live on Facebook. So we have with us today stalwarts of education, big leaders, and we are inviting them to the Deca Quest, which is a talk show in which we are calling top thought leaders from across the globe, and they are joining us to discuss diverse topics post pandemic and various issues. And they're bringing about huge transformation in our society by nurturing uh, new generation of children who are innovators and not rote learners. So we are bringing about a major change in the society. This is your host Malashri, co-founder of Ignited Minds Innovators, and this is a STEAM education organization that has been conducting hands-on activities in schools span India. We are designing, customizing science and math kits for schools and conducting sessions for children so that they kind of become innovators. We are on the same mission actually. So a very, very warm welcome to the big thought leaders. One has a big vision and the other is on the mission. So we have with us Mr. Sandy Huda, the co-founder of Vega Schools, Gurugram, NCR. He is handling the entire chain. And we have with us Mr. Daniel Curry, who is also the director principal of the Vega Schools and handling the branches around. So a very, very warm welcome, sir. And we are really honored to have you on this platform. And you could spare your time, squeeze into our schedule. Really thankful and grateful. Sir, I would just like to tell you, I'm sure, I don't know if you're aware, so the Deca Quest by Ignited Minds, it's been like, we are asking 10 questions to the guest speaker. And so there are going to be 5 questions for Mr. Sandy and 5 questions to Mr. Daniel. And the 5th question is more of rapid fire round. So I'm really looking forward to that one. So, sir, the first question is to Mr. Sandy. Sir, I would really want to know how you evolved into the co-founder of the Vega School. I mean, like, uh, you had been doing your schooling from modern school and then it went on to SRCC, and then you had a vision of opening this school, co-founding this school. So how was this journey and what like kind of motivated you?
Sure. Thanks, Malshi. Thank you for having us. And hi, everyone. It's a great question because starting Vega School is deeply personal to me. When I was in school and college, I very quickly realized that the of teaching learning, it wasn't engaging or interesting. It just wasn't interesting. I mean, I would love to go play sports in schools, go see my friends, but the classrooms, quite honestly, weren't interesting. And the second reason is that I felt that what I was learning wasn't really aligned with my strengths, and it wasn't really aligned to the challenges that we will face in the real world. I guess I learned that a little bit more in college than in school, but and this was further sort of affirmed when I started. I'm a first generation entrepreneur. When I started my business, I realized, reflecting on my life, that how important it is for a school to make learning really interesting, so that there's a burning desire to learn.
True.
And to make it relevant for the real world, because the real world, quite frankly, today is even far more challenging than it was in the past. So these are the two underlying principles why we created Vega Schools.
Brilliant, sir. So basically, there was some, little something missing in our schooling days that we want to put forward, and we want children to enjoy the learning, make an environment that is, holistic, and they want to have fun and learning curiosity all together, right? So I think I felt the same with my school too. I wanted to have things at home, have a nice lab. I think all children wanted. They're very curious. Most of them make slimes at home these days. So I think that there's something missing in our childhood education that led us to doing this. So I would the next question would be to Mr. Daniel. Daniel, sir, you have had a real diverse background. I was really reading about it. That you had been a part of U.S. Air Force Academy and moving from California to Europe to to Middle East, and then you became an educator. So, what inspired you to switch to this field?
Yes. Well, again, thank you for having us today, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak on some important topics. My background is I came from a family of educators. My father was a teacher, and but I wanted to go into military service. And for me, what my plan was to do the military, to get life experience, and then be able to bring that life experience into the classroom as a teacher. Because I knew a lot of teachers who went straight from their own education into education, and they're missing that life experience. So when I was in the military, I developed a lot of leadership skills. And then when I started teaching, I realized that I wanted to be more in the leadership management part of schools, where we can bring, and again, like Sandy said, real world. We want our students to be able to graduate and understand what the world is really like and to have the skills they need to be successful in the world. And for me, whether it's the military or working in schools, I feel a strong sense of service. I feel a reward from serving in that capacity, serving my community or my country. And I also want our students to grow and to have a sense of an obligation, really, that we are not just alone in the world, in the community. We're part of a community, and we should be thinking about how can we have a positive impact on the community around us.
Fabulous, fabulous, sir. So, I mean, it's because you had a background of educators all around you, so you wanted to be in the field and get that experience also, the relatable, the life. Because, yes, like you say, sometimes if you are born in a family of educators, you switch over to education, and sometimes you kind of assume that children would know this, sometimes you start at a level higher. So if you have that life experience, and of course the major miss, I think, in school education is the relatability. Like, children would not know, our generation children would not know how to be an entrepreneur. These days, I think children were very sorted. I want to be a chef, I don't want to be a maybe a fashion designer. But the our time, it was a little different. So I think we're making it more relatable now. It's getting better. So Huda sir, next question is on you. So any particular incident or something you would like to narrate which really sparked that, like you said, you're the first generation entrepreneur. So what like really gave you that kick, that I really need to start it now. I mean, I had enough. I really need to get that transformation done.
Well, when I decided exit my businesses several years ago, year sabbatical, and the 2 year sabbatical was taken precisely to answer this question: that what do I want to do next? And during the sabbatical, I just by chance I met with a very progressive educator, David Price. And I met him in the UK, and he's on our board now. He's been on our board since the day we started Vega, and and I was sharing with him, how it is, and how education is not. I wish how education was more directly in sync with the real world, and and so on. And he mentioned that there are schools around the world that have started making this change. And he gave me an example of one UK of some schools. I asked him if I could go visit it, and he said sure. So he made the call, and I think the very next day or something, I went and met with them, and I was completely, I was completely so pleasantly surprised that to see that school, because I saw that children actually loved going to school to the extent that they had started a program called D6, which means where just the students would go to school every Saturday and run the school. They would run. There was not a single educator in the school or administrator in the school, and such was a desire to learn that. So that was, I think, one of the pivotal moments for me.
Beautiful, yeah. So you started thinking of starting a school like with the same concept, and getting him on board, and then starting a different vision totally, that the schools have to be different, the children have to love to learn, they have to enjoy their learning. It doesn't have to be like the monotony of having classes. I mean, like, children, yes, there are subjects you like, and there are subjects you don't like, but there has to be a curiosity and that learning desire in children, at least. And what I feel is questioning is one major thing that is kind of suppressed in conventional school. I mean, it's rarely now things have changed, but at our time, I think questioning was not right, and we were supposed to be vomiting whatever we learned. So 515 is good for everyone. Good for educators, good for school. So Daniel sir, I would like to ask you something that you have been teaching your team. It's about you have been motivating your staff and team by saying that you have to teach by using head, heart, and hands. So what is this about?
Yes, so this is a phrase that has stuck with me over the 20 plus years that I've been in education. That's one of those phrases that you pick up and that sticks with you, because the idea is it's holistic education, right? Most schools focus on the head. What are they, knowledge. Let's pour some knowledge into their head, and that's the school's job. But I think of it also as heart and hands. What are they learning as a person? So the heart comes with, at Vega schools, we have Vega values. What are we teaching them about being a good human being? What behavior do we expect to see? So what kind of changes do we see in their heart? So it's head, heart, and then hands. And now what do you do about it? What are you doing physically? Are you serving your community? Are you applying what you know to do things, whether it's hands-on learning or whether it's, we've learned about, one of our units was learning about just the discrimination as a general topic. And then we had students go into a village and do interviews, and we had students go out and do information campaigns. So it's more than just passive learning. It's developing as a human and learning that now I need to do something about it. I need to act, and that's where the hands are.
I think brilliant it is. I was relating it to more of, like what we do, project-based learning. So, I mean, like, getting that heart into it is brilliant. That brings about not only the change in the generation or students you are teaching, but also, they feel a part of the community. And I think that brings about that relatability, that you're a part and parcel of the community, and you need to serve also whatever you can do for the society. And if you start from a younger age, I think empathy is one thing that we can develop in children. Brilliant, sir. uh, Sir Huda sir, when you started this school, the Vega school, so obviously, I mean, there are a set of norms and regulations and SOPs that we need to follow when we start a school. But what was your primary focus on? Like, you wanted that little change in your school, that I want this to be a little different. So what's the different thing about your school that you really focus on when you visit your school? You want to see that thing happening there.
Sure. I'm a believer in form following function, and for us, the first step was to really get our values, to be able to clearly define our values, and which we did, and it took a while. Um, we did it collaboratively. Um, so that was a big piece, because when we hire people, and hiring the right people was the second very important piece. We want to be able to see if people we are hiring, bringing on board, are in sync with our values. So that was a very important piece. The second piece was the architecture of the school itself. We had done a lot of research, and we realized, for example, that um, all the recent research says that there is no reason for a school to have a classroom, a closed classroom.
Wow.
So we built, for example, India's first school with open classrooms, with open learning zones. And a lot of people told us that, are you sure you want to do this? Because you might scare people off, etc. But we stuck to our principles. We listened to the voice of research, and we made sure that our school was completely had open learning zones that could be modified, fixed, depending on the kind of learning you want to deliver, whether it's small group learning, large group learning in cohorts with a team of teachers. So it's called team teaching, because you need a whole lot of multiple strategies. You need multiple strategies to be able to individualize and personalize learning, and to make it more engaging and interesting.
So, sir, when you say that it's an open kind of, I mean, I can't imagine it to be, because I've not been to your school. I'm going to visit it very soon. But so how do you do it? Like grade sixes together, or what? Like,
It's actually very similar to the real world. I mean, just imagine how offices used to be like in the past. You go to an office and they're full of small cabins and cubicles. And today, if you go to a Google or a Facebook, or I'm told even Reliance Jio has done something similar, they're open. The offices are open. So you can, if you want to have a breakout meeting, a breakout session, you can configure it. Of course, there are some areas for quiet work, and we have those too. But the whole idea is, think of a Lego set, and that's how the school is. So it can be easily configured. If you have fixed classrooms, you can't reconfigure those.
Yeah, so it doesn't have any boundaries, no boundaries in the mind, no boundaries physically. So more dynamism and things like, mobility and can be inculcated. So I think, yes, children are really scared of, I remember when we used to have our physics class, so we had to go for the physics class. So the boundaries are not there. The children, little children especially, I think they are, they don't like confinement. I remember when I used to be going around my child's school, so there would be, children coming out of the school classroom. They want to be free, open, moving around, moving around. So I think that's the brilliant idea you have. So Daniel sir, the next question is for you. This is a very important. There are a lot of progressive schools that we have visited, and we find that, parents do not have access to the school or the school leaders. They it's kind of a fortress. You need to have a proper channel. Of course, I mean, you do need regulations to meet someone, but there has to be some kind of communication between the top leaders, education leaders, teachers, educators, parents, so that some problems can be discussed. So how do you go about that, sir? Do you think it is more important, I mean, that connect with the parents?
Yes, absolutely. And in many ways, this is us practicing what we preach. So we teach our students, our learners, to work collaboratively, to work in teams, that everyone has strengths, and that we learn from one another. And we operate as a school that way. With the team that we have at the school, we work collaboratively. We get good ideas, and we never think that we are so good that we can't learn something new. And a big part of that is the parents. We really feel like we're partners with our parents. They let us know what their experience is. We make adjustments. Now, of course, there are things that are internal workings of a school, right? But anything that's related to academics, the experience of children, their growth and development, we want to hear from parents. So we have a very active parent community. I talk to parents 3-4 times a week because I want to know. I want to know what they're experiencing. I want them to feel part of the school. I want them to be providing their input. We want to be working together with our parents to craft the best educational experience we can, because every student is an individual and the parents know their students best. So they know what works. They know how students will react. They know, and we need to rely on them. So we meet with parents and teams and we say, look, let's look at your child, how they're doing. We need the parent to say, you know what, at home I see this and I found that this works, and we say, great, let's try that here.
Wow.
It's a partnership. Yeah.
So I think it's a beautiful idea to connect and get a feedback, whether it is positive or negative. Of course, there are some certain, sometimes there are nagging parents. I'm one of the parents. I'm not nagging, but I do understand, there are certain set of people who do bother sometimes. But I think it has to be a very symbiotic relationship between the parent and the educators when you're bringing that wholesome development in your child. And post pandemic, it has become even more relevant because we've got schools to our homes, so we need to have that connect. There are a lot of schools the teachers are not approachable. They don't have WhatsApp groups. They don't have only like the very, very professional kind of. So I think that makes things very difficult. That's really nice, sir. Sir, next question is for Sandy, sir. So you have co-founded this school with Dr. Stephen Edwards, and what I read about him was that he emphasizes on problem-based learning. And amazingly, he was a dyslexic child, and I'm really, I'm in awe with the amount of research he's done on this. So, what clicked? Why did you call him on board? What caused you, you need him, for, was it for inclusion or what?
Okay, great. So Steve is one of the sharpest people I know, and he's one of the most admired educators globally. Someone I deeply admire. When I started visiting the game-changing schools around the world, I realized that they all had a common underpinning, and that common underpinning was all, in one way or the other, practicing problem-based learning or project-based learning. And therefore it intrigued me, that some of the most the schools that are schools that make learning fun, that make it real world, have this one kind of a teaching method or learning method behind it. So my next to find out who is the best in the world in PBL, and I started looking for people who were masters of PBL, and that's where I came across Steve, who was acclaimed to be a master of PBL, and we met and we formed a very strong bond, a relationship, because we had a shared mission, and the shared mission was to create schools that deliver high quality PBL.
So, sir, is there any difference between problem-based learning and project-based learning? So,
I think that's a question for Dan. He's the expert educator, so I'm going to request him to answer it.
Yes. Yeah, I'm happy to jump in and just briefly mention that, problem-based learning incorporates many methodologies of progressive schools that would include things like project-based learning, inquiry-based learning, experiential learning. Those are all components of our overall problem-based learning program. And the difference is problem-based learning starts with a driving question that's related to the world around them. So as the students get older, the questions get deeper. There are questions about pollution or about global equity, or about what they see disparity in the world around them. Or, one of our units right now, as a group of students are working on how do we preserve the tigers in India. And in that, we can frame projects and questions and experiences that use science, math, social studies, all these things come together in the problem. And so that's where we see that as an umbrella term for all of those good approaches.
Brilliant. So it's more of like what we also endorse. It's like integrated learning, because children don't see inside of things; they see outside of things. When they see that plant is blossoming or flower is blossoming, it's they don't understand that it has a separate physics or biology or chemistry. They see it as a plant blossoming. So I think all the subjects can be integrated together, and you know. A relatable real life view can be given to the children, that see, this is how it is working. So I think that's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. If you give such projects to children, I mean, they would be connecting with the real world and solving actual problems. That's bringing out empathy in them. So sir, again, Daniel sir, this is another question. This is related to what I just said. So how are you been bringing about holistic development in children, like the life skill part, the empathy part? We have all, most of us, like upper middle class children who can give back to the society. So how
Yes.
is that developing, being done in your school?
So we have, the way it's been structured here at Vega, the idea of head, heart, and hands, we have that. So we have the problem-based learning, we have the Vega values, that's the heart, and we have a SHRAM, that's the hand. So our SHRAM program is where our students go out into the community and they do some kind of service related to the topics or related to what they're doing in school. So everything is tied together. They learn to see the questions that we frame are important to them because it affects their world. So if you're a kindergartner, you're asking questions about what they see in their household or who are the people that they interact with. When they get older, like I said, the questions can be broader and deeper, but it always is something that matters to them. And then we lead them through this journey of understanding and then doing. So that is the natural process that they learn, and that will continue. So they learn that knowledge doesn't exist in a vacuum, that I learn, now I have an emotional response, a compassionate or empathetic response that leads me to action. And this cycle, we have this I lead cycle that's developed by through Steve Edwards and his wife, who used this, but a lot of this great research that helps develop in our students the natural sense that we learn something, how do we respond to that, what do we do about it?
So it's basically you observe, you question, and then you do something about it. And like, it's kind of a scientific, very scientific, approach. That unless
Yes.
you observe, you'll not have problems. If you have problems, you try to solve them, and then again, like give it back to the society. I think that's amazing, sir. Sir, we have one question left for. So I mean, I would like both of you to answer this. This is about a very practical thing that used to happen in our time. I think it happens now also. So there are children who are maybe average in academics, and they might not be so good in academics, and they might be doing exceptionally well or okay in music, dance, co-curricular activities, sports. So how do you compensate? I have a lot of parents asking me, that our school, I mean, she's so good in horse riding and she's so good in football, but because she's missing on academics, so I had to make her, quit those things and switch on to, like, especially in the higher years, like 11th and 12th, children tend to focus on, okay, PT, PMT, or any other examination they're supposed to give on competitions. So how do you balance that? Do you convince the parents, or do you give an extra provision to the children? How do you do that?
Well, I can.
And you want to go first? Yeah.
Sure. Yes. What I can say is there's a couple ways that we approach that. And one, of course, we always look for how can we support every individual student? And we have many support systems in our school for that. So we want them to be successful. But the second piece that I think is maybe more important is looking at why do some students gravitate, or why do they prefer some areas? Is it because it's fun and engaging? Sports are fun and engaging. They're huge life lessons that we learn from team sports, for example, collaboration and communication. It's engaging. Now, why can't and why shouldn't all of our subjects be engaging and interesting and compelling? And they can be if we're tapping into their natural curiosity, their natural interests. So not everyone's going to grow up to be a biologist, but I'm not a biologist, but I find things interesting in nature. And I think I'd like to learn more about that. So how do we make sure that our students have the natural creativity, that we don't stamp it out of them, that we don't stamp out their imagination and their desire to value learning and to pursue interests across the board? Now, yes, there will always be some kind of assessment. There will always be entrance examinations. There will always be interviews. There will always be, hurdles that we have to face. And so we want to prepare them the best that they can. But we also want them to know, what are my strengths, to have self-knowledge. What are my strengths? What do I want to pursue? How can I be successful in what I want to pursue? So it's that individual personal development along with those supports that make the difference.
Fabulous. I think it is amazing. I mean, if you look into the child's mind, and like you said, if we can make the other subjects also engaging, I think most children, if you ask them in the pandemic, what did you miss in your school, they would say the playground. Like you said, sports is so engaging. They would not say the classrooms or the teachers. They would first say it's the playground. So I think. I was just talking to people, more people. I've been doing these webinars, and we came out with an idea that why can't we have a physics or a chemistry teacher, or physics teacher rather, or a math teacher in the playground explaining how cricket works? How what angles do you use in badminton, or what musical instruments, how do they work? A physics teacher. I mean, that would be such a beautiful integrated learning program. So. Sir Huda sir, would you like to comment a little bit on this? Because I'm coming to the rapid fire round.
I mean, I think we also need to kind of challenge these numeracy, literacy versus real world. There has to be a balance between the two. I was talking to one of our board members, who's a very, very highly regarded educator, Gauri Ishwara, and she's also a Padma Shri awardee. And she was telling me that she's been tracking, several students of hers over the past 10, 20, 30 years. And she actually finds no correlation between pure academic success and success in life.
Absolutely.
On the contrary, she found that some of the backbenchers were far more confident and far more. I mean, I'm not for a minute celebrating and backbenching, and we don't even have backbenches because we have no classrooms. But we, and I'm not denouncing academics at all. But I think the larger point is that the education really needs to be all round and real world.
So you are absolutely right on this, because what I also felt is that I have seen topmost students in the school not performing as well in the real world as the average students. Maybe they have a different perspective. They're not rote learners. They have a different vision. So we need to respect that also. I think that's a beautiful thing. So do we come to the rapid fire round now? So it's going to be one question for both of you. You got to answer one by one. So Sandy sir first, and then Daniel sir. So, okay, is it going to be tea or coffee after this?
Coffee.
Tea.
Oh, okay.
And I'm the Indian and Dan's the American.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Is it gym or yoga?
Gym for sure.
Gym.
Gym. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Sandy sir, how do you prefer to relax and de-stress?
Well, I love to read a nice book,
Okay.
and I live between London and Delhi. So when I'm in London, I love going for runs in the park, close to the Hyde Park. So yes, in
So
nature,
I do have
just go out in nature.
marathons too. Yes, I love to run too.
Mm.
Sir, Daniel, sir.
So when they have a little time, we love to travel. No surprise, living an international lifestyle. We like to go see new places.
Wow. So I'm coming to the next question now, sir. Favorite destination, Sandy, sir.
In India, it's definitely Goa.
Wow. And abroad?
Abroad, honestly, there are just so many. I haven't thought of what could be a favorite.
Okay.
But interestingly, it's London where we live. We love London.
Okay. So is it going to be okay, Daniel, sir? You didn't answer. Yes.
Sure, boy, that's a tough one. We like everywhere we go, and we want to go back, but there's always new places. We love. We've been to Kerala before. It's a beautiful area. A number of times to Kerala and love it. And we lived in Turkey, so I'd have to say Istanbul is a beautiful city.
So, sir, Sandy, sir, is it hills or beaches for you?
Beaches, I think.
Daniel, sir?
Beaches.
Beaches, okay. So, your Sandy, sir, your favorite book, since you're a reader, or maybe the
I
recent one.
Again, it's a tough one. I have many favorite books, but
The
there's a book
recent.
that I read a couple of years ago. I read it 3 or 4 times, maybe. It's a book called the A New Earth. It's by a German philosopher by the name of Eckhart Tolle.
Mhm. Wow. Okay, so Daniel, sir, your favorite book.
You know, like Sandy, so many come to mind, but one that I think I refer to a lot in my professional life is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Wow, yes, yes. I think we all have read this. Yes.
Yeah.
We keep reading it again and again just to reiterate things. Yes. Sandy, sir, your sun sign.
Gemini.
Gemini. Okay. Daniel, sir?
Capricorn.
Capricorn. Okay. It's a little too personal, but I just really wanted to know. So, how would you, Sandy, sir, how would you explain yourself, like extrovert, introvert, or ambivert?
I think I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I used to be more introverted, but I think um, I'm an introvert, closer to the middle, but not a shy introvert.
Not a shy one. You do interact with people who have the same intellect, and I'm really glad you did with me. Okay. Okay. Daniel, sir, how do you define yourself?
Yes, well, different definitions. I would say extrovert in the sense that I love meeting people and talking to people, but introvert in the sense that I recharge by having quiet time.
Settling time. Yeah.
Yes.
That's nice. That's great, sir. Any favorite movie, Sandy, sir?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
No
There's
recent
so
one.
many. There's so many. I used to love these superhero movies,
Oh,
but I think of late they're becoming a little too repetitive.
okay.
But
Who's your
yeah,
favorite superhero then?
I think definitely Batman because he's the one with no superpowers.
I used to like Superman. Okay.
Mm,
Okay, Daniel, sir,
yeah.
what about you? Favorite movie?
Interest. Movie. I'm science fiction, so Star Wars movies, Lord of the
Oh,
Rings. Those are my thing.
same here.
And recently was turned on to Three Idiots, which I think was an important one for me to watch as a new person to
Yeah.
India. Yes, but I'd have to say Superman is.
Yeah, I think we've all grown up in that age when we saw Christopher
Yes,
Reeve flying.
yes.
Beautiful. Okay, I think we've had the entire series, and really thankful to really honored and grateful and all the words I can't think of right now to have you here on this platform and share your views. I think Vega School is doing amazingly. And I would love to visit the school because when I was visiting the website, I saw a beautiful campus and huge cricket grounds and football grounds. And I would love to see the architecture also. So I'm self-inviting myself. Thank you so much for being there, sir. It was wonderful, wonderful talking to you. I hope I didn't take much of your time. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful festive season and a very happy Diwali to all of you. Thank you, Sandy, sir, for being there. I think you're a very quiet person. Very minimalistic talk. Thank you, Daniel, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and I support what you're doing. I've seen your website and the idea that students are using their hands, learning by doing, so important. So thank you for your work.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much, audience, for being there and watching us. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for
Thank
the
you.
wonderful questions. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.